How to control Ableton's live looper in a pretty advanced way, get some visual feedback and export the looper content to MIDI clips. So I will show you a few things here. I have in total 4 new Max for Live devices. Let me switch that off and delete this. Hi, I'm Toby from abletondrummer.com. I developed a few Max for Live devices to be able to control the Ableton Looper in a different way. The Ableton Looper has some advantages and some disadvantages. It really depends on your use case. It's great for starting out, finding the tempo or not setting the tempo, not having to record your first layer to a clip, and to quickly jump in and jump out and just do stuff on top. Obviously, I have another device, the one-button live looper, which is excellent and a little bit more stable for live performances. You want to record and you want to have the single layers, you want to edit afterwards. So, but this one is about the Ableton Looper, and there are 4 devices in total. The 2 first ones are about controlling the Ableton Looper in a more advanced way and having the opportunity to access this via different MIDI controllers at the same time. For example, it has a few actions you can customize and you aren't able to do if just mapping to the Ableton Looper itself. Then the second device, or it's 2 devices, is one part, and the second approach is visualization. So you can see here, for example, I have those windows and I can see on multiple loopers what they are doing. So if I record something else somewhere, you can see I get control and the visibility of multiple loopers. And the third one is about exporting the looper content to a clip and have the looper automatically stop, have the clip playing automatically, and deleting the looper's content automatically as well. So it's quite a big thing here. We're gonna go through all the different devices. This video here is focusing on the first section of devices, the looper controller devices, where there are 2. There's one main device and one to control multiple loopers at the same time, for example, to delete all of those. So those are available as separate devices or are available as a whole suite. Just follow the link in the video description below to find out more. So in this video here, we are gonna do like a whole run through of how to set things up with the Ableton Looper controller devices. So the first 2 devices of this whole suite, again, those are available separately or as a full pack. Important is you would need Ableton Live 12 for making use of those, because Ableton added a few more API access in the background for the Ableton Looper from Ableton Live version 12. And those are Max for Live devices. That means you would need Max for Live, which is included in the suite version of Ableton Live or can be bought as an add-on towards standard. Okay, so let's start first here with the Ableton Looper controller. So it's this device. It can sit right in front of your looper or anywhere else where you want to, because you actually gonna map this to the looper you want to map it to, and that's what you're doing down below here. So I have my keys playing here and I just need to map this to this looper I called keys. So I just quickly hit map and then I touch a parameter of the looper and I will see that it's mapped to it, because it's gonna display me the name of it. So if I change the name, keys 2, for example, I hit refresh, the name will be updated. Okay, so this is actually the whole mapping process here. Now I want to set up MIDI control here, and the MIDI control works a little bit different here because we are not really focusing on the MIDI mapping, because the MIDI mapping is pretty straightforward and it can be done directly to the controller here as well. There are a few things you can't map to the looper, I meant to the looper directly, and if you want to have multiple MIDI controllers controlling the same looper, you run into issues quite quickly here, because then you need to set your MIDI controllers to match the same MIDI messages and so on and so forth. And you need to do this every time again. And with this looper, you are actually able to have presets you just can drag and drop out from your user library, map them to the controller, and everything is mapped up as you want to. Okay, so first we are mapping this to the looper, and now we can set up, and you can see direct MIDI node in or MIDI direct MIDI message in toggles here. Not necessarily nodes, so it can be controlled via MIDI CC or via program change. So program change can't be mapped via the native MIDI mapping in Ableton Live. You can only map one program change here. So for example, the FCB 1010, quite affordable, or an alright affordable, alright affordable is an interesting word creation. An alright affordable MIDI foot controller natively comes only with program change. You can reprogram it, but it's a bit of a petar. So if you just want to quickly map this, and let me show you how well this works, maybe, yeah, let's do it like this. I have a different controller here down below where I don't have a camera, but I just need to set the MIDI controller I want to use here. So maybe let's do this with a different one, because then it's more obvious. So I'm using the MIDI Dobrynya here, the MIDI Dobrynya Pocket. It's a beta. It's a great controller because you can highly customize it with the color things here. So let's say I want to control, and I'm now on my vibraphone looper here, and I want to map this to a certain button here. So what I would need to do, I obviously need to map this to the right looper here. So now it's controlling my vibes looper here. I go to the MIDI import, and in the MIDI import I see all my different MIDI imports which are available, MIDI devices or even MIDI tracks here, if they are set up in the preferences to send into a track, which is just here, just quickly to show you. So just making sure your MIDI controller is connected under link tempo MIDI. You will see my MIDI Dobrynya Pocket, and I need to make sure that the track here is turned on. Track in down below here. Okay, so now the MIDI Dobrynya Pocket becomes available as a port in here. I select this. If I just want to grab from a certain channel, I can do this here as well. So now it is receiving from my port here, and all I need to do is I need to activate the field below the action point I got here, and then I need to hit S, and now it will detect the MIDI node, the MIDI CC, or the MIDI program change, the MIDI messages I'm sending in now, and it's set up, done. So just to show you, I can now hit record here, and this is matched, I think so. So now, and there we go. Okay, so it's matched already. There is a little gate thingy happening here because I have a mic open here and I gated this, so I don't want this to be open all the time. So now I can actually control all the things I usually want to control via MIDI controller, just via this one button here. And this is similar and will change, and you can see that it will change to show you the next action. So there is play, overdub, and so on and so forth. So I have the few different actions here. Maybe let's jump into the smart button action here, because this is the first question which comes up here. So actually you want to be able to maybe say, oh, I effed up, I just quickly want to stop the looper or clear the looper, and those are actions you can set up here. So you have a double, which means you are hitting your controller twice. Let's set this up to 300 milliseconds. So if you are double tapping your mapped button to this part here. This means this action you are selecting here, if your smart button action is being turned on, will be performed. So for example, if I select clear and if I now double tap the same button for recording, it will clear the something is wrong. Need to be faster. Yeah, I need to be faster. So that's a good example of like, well, maybe I need to set this up a little bit higher. So quickly do this again. So I record something in here, I let that playing. So if I want to clear something now, I need to hit twice the button within the time I specified here. So I have a few different actions here, and this will work for double or for holding. So you can highly customize the way just one button is actually controlling your looper here. So let's select stop for instant. Why does it need a stop for instant? So for example, if you have a look, if this is recording and then playing, and if you trigger the stop on the Ableton Looper, it will stop on the next one or on the global quantization if you have global quantization used here, which is obviously nice if you want to record something, that it's starting on the next one, if it's not the first loop. But if you want to stop something, you might want to stop it instantly. So that's what it can do here. So we have combined stop, now first combined action, stop, instant and clear. So if I hit that, if that is running, let's have this playing. So if I double click here, it stops the looper and clears the looper on the same time. So I can have stop instant and stop global plus clear here as well. So this means you can see here right now the global transport is playing, Ableton Live is playing, but if I double click here now, the global transport stops as well. This is great for the first looper, for the first loop I'm recording in, because I might F up with the first loop and I just want the transport to stop because I might want to use detect the time via the first loop I'm recording in here. Okay, so I have those actions here, and I have this for double triggering, and I have this for long hold. So long hold means, for example, if we set this up maybe via the keyboard here again, because the keyboard is the one I'm using in this example here for the first loop. So if I play something, and maybe let's open up the views, the looper visualizer, which is a different device here, part of the whole suite, but if you buy that separate, it's not included. Okay, so I have this loop running here, and now if I want to delete everything, stop the looper and clear the looper and stop the transport, stop Ableton Live's transport, I just hold down, you can't see this, but I'm now holding down this button here and it performs this for me here. Okay, so one cool thing is, because you sometimes run into the issue if your first loop should send the tempo. If I just stop the looper and clear the looper, let's quickly do this here. I clear the looper, the Ableton Live transport is still running, and it shows you that in the visualizer that the background here is not black, it's light blue at the moment. I'm not sure, might change this to be customizable, but for the moment you can see, I can see, oh, Ableton Live's transport is running in the visualizer here, and that is a problem if I want to use the first loop for setting the tempo, which is one of the advantage of using the Ableton Looper here for your first loop. Okay, so let's have a look through the different functions here. So obviously we have a plus and minus, which is the same like on the Ableton Looper. So when you record your first loop, you can decide if it automatically should go into overdubbing mode straight away, or if it should play what you just recorded, and then when you press again, you overdub. So let's demonstrate this quickly. So we now have play activated. So if we record something, the looper is playing, and I can play stuff now, but it's not getting recorded because it's not in overdubbing, it's in play mode. If I now hit my button once more, my foot pedal here, it's now in overdubbing, and it's doing the overdubbing here. Okay, so that's the difference here. Again, I just hold this button once longer for the time I specified here, and it's doing that thing here. So one important thing, if you're using program changes, and it will show you that for the smart button logic here. So if we set this to program change, the program change can't trigger long hold because a program change doesn't give you a second MIDI message when you release something. So that's important. Your controller should be able to send, if you want to use the smart button stuff here, it should be sending a, for example, a note would be note on, note off signal, or if you're using CC, it should send a CC value other than 0, and then on release should send as 0. If you're not aware of that, you can have a look on my MIDI monitor just to see what your controller is sending. Just a small add-on here. Yes, so the note one, cool. So this is actually what we got in here. We can predefine, and this is how many bars it should record. So we can set this here in the looper, and that's just the overdub and rec. And the rec bars function here, it's just a little thing which you can set on the looper itself, or you can set it on the controller here. So we have obviously record as a single function here. If you want to use that as a single function, overdubbing, play, stop. Okay, so all things you can do via this one button here already, or one stomp here already. Then there is a new function here, which is the instant stopping. So instant stopping is, for example, if you are in overdubbing. Let's quickly do this, maybe a little bit quieter. So if I now go into overdubbing, and if I would trigger stop on the looper or via the looper controller, it will stop on the next one. So I hit stop and it will stop on the next one. Okay, so if you want to have instant stopping, it would be, let's quickly do this, go into overdubbing. Instant stop is this one here. It quickly turns the looper on and off. It's just something which I find really annoying with the looper. If you want to stop something, usually or in quite a few cases, you want things to stop immediately. Okay, you have the undo and redo function here, and you have the clear function here as well. So those are just, you could say, easy things you could MIDI map here straight away to the looper via the native MIDI mapping. But if you now save this as a preset X, you can save this as a preset in your user library. If we go here and we just put this in, Looper Controller Audio Preset. So I'm able to just quickly recall this preset I set up in a different Ableton Live set. Boom, there it is. I need to map this just to make sure it's taking over the name, because I saved the name with the device here as well, but it's taking over all the different MIDI mappings here, and I'm able to straight away control this whole thing. I hope you understand this. So you could have like different controllers, presets you set up for your different MIDI controllers, and you are able to just quickly recall all those different buttons, mappings here to set up with a new controller, and that's something you are not able to do with a native MIDI mapping, with a blue native MIDI mapping in Ableton Live. This wouldn't be remembered across Ableton Live sets, so you need to set this up all the time again, or starting always from a preset. But then if you change stuff, you know, it's just one way of how I think it makes things a little bit easier and a little bit more straightforward here to be able to recall the things you want to have. Cool. You are able to quickly set this up to be controlled via two MIDI controllers here as well. That's something I mentioned. So how to control the Ableton Live Looper via two different MIDI controllers. So maybe let's take this one here. Let me just quickly check if that's in the window. Fine. Okay, so we have something here, maybe the Akai LPD8, and let's say we want my foot pedal here to control this. Wrong button, so cleaned out. And we want to control the same looper with different MIDI messages from a different MIDI controller here right now. So if we use a second looper controller on the same track, so let's quickly just get one, get them in here. So the Ableton Looper Controller here, audio version, let's put it right next to it, and we set this one up to listen to a different MIDI controller here, the LPD8. So we need to select the LPD8 in here. We need to map this to the same looper. So what we're doing now is we are setting up a second MIDI controller to go into the looper controller to the second device here, and then have this one controlling it, and I by accident hit record here. So now let's set this up to whatever, maybe for the instant stop here, just to give you one example. So I have the LPD8 being selected as a MIDI input here. I hit on S, I get a note or whatever. I have different MIDI CCs or program changes I can set up here on the Akai. So now I'm actually able to start my recording here, and it's still in playing while my foot. But now I'm controlling it via this different MIDI controller. So I'm able to set up quite a few things here and quite some flexibility, and especially if you're thinking about, well, it would be nice, like if you have a lot of instruments. So for example, I have a vibraphone here I'm playing. So I stand up and I want this controller, or maybe want a controller here, or a drum pad, or something I can hit for start and stop recording, or for going back to the recording here. So, and I can do this with multiple controllers, but controlling the same looper if I want to, if I need to. Okay. One more device which is part of the looping control part here, and that's this one, which is the multiple loopers control. So those two devices are being sold together, and the other ones are being sold, each one of those are being sold separately, but you can get them as a whole suite, which comes a little cheaper as well. The multiple looper control here is a device where you can control multiple loops at the same time, and that's really interesting, because if you have, and you can see that in the looper visualizer devices here, I have something being recording on my drums, something is happening here. So I guess that's one, yeah, it is. So if we want to, and that's something which I developed while preparing for presenting those devices here. I developed this device because I was like, oh, I always want to, like, I don't want to hit delete for the one controller, then delete for the next one, then delete for the next one. I want to do this at once. So this is exactly what this controller is doing here, and it is clearing all loopers, or stop on all loopers, instant stop on all loopers, or global stop. Global stop means stopping the transport, so we can see the transport is running. If I trigger that one, it's stopping this here. And I've set this up or to listen, and this is sitting on a MIDI track, so that works a little bit different. So I'm receiving the MIDI from the MIDI Dobrynya pocket here, and this is being sent to those three actions here at the same time. So it's clearing all loopers, it's instant stop, and it's global stop, transport stop in Ableton Live. I then need to set this up to be mapped to the loopers. So for example, if I want to map this to my key looper, I need to go to my key looper here, quickly touch the parameter, a parameter inside the key looper, and if I go back, we can see keys 2 is being mapped to this device now. So what does that mean? If we and let me quickly record something just to show you. So if I record that and then I go to the next looper, vibraphone, and then maybe I record some drums, and that's an overdubbing mode. And now I want to start from the beginning again. So now I would need to go into all loopers and delete every looper individually, but that's needed to be a shortcut. So I now can just quickly hit this one button and everything gets stopped and cleared straight away. So I can start from the top because all three loopers, and I can map up to 10 loopers to this device here, will be cleared, stopped, and the global transport is stopped here as well. I added the record, play, and overdub buttons here, just making sure. If you're using MIDI mapping, the native MIDI mapping here, which means you can set this up via, let's do this via this button here, for example. So now this button here is triggering that. So you need to make sure that if you're sending a MIDI note, that this is being set to momentary, because then it will switch off the button here automatically. Again, I would advise you to not use, it depends on your use case, but advantage here again, if you save this and do the direct MIDI in mapping here, setting up notes or MIDI CC or program change to map this to those actions here, you can now store, save, and recall this as a preset in any Ableton Live set. You need to do the mappings, but your control values here are being stored. The MIDI messages which are coming in are being stored, and you don't need to set them up to your looper again via the native MIDI mapping if you're opening that up in a different Ableton Live set. So that's a huge advantage here, I think. Cool, one more function on the multiple loopers control device here, clear on start. Because obviously if I do something and I jam around, and then if I open this Ableton Live set again, it will make sure that my loopers are being cleared on startup. So you can see, even if I had something in here and I recorded that, the clear on start button will clear all the content and all the stuff which was in your loopers at the beginning here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Again, this video here just shows you the looper controller single and the looper controller multi for multiple control, those two different things here. The whole window stuff I have here, the visualization is a different tool. This is the MIDI Looper, the Looper Visualizer, currently new Audio 04, still yeah, working out stuff here. So if you want to find out more about those devices and the create clips from Looper, watch those run-throughs, please here. Again, they are sold separately, but you can get them as a whole suite. You would need Ableton Live 12 with Max for Live to make use of those, and to, yeah, just follow the link in the video description to find out more if you're still watching. Quite long video here, but I think it's important to explain everything and every little step, every little function which you will find in those devices here, just making sure that you can learn everything you can do with it. Cool, take care, bye bye.